Hey, Wigwam watchers and Yum Yum team. Come on in the room, you guys. I got something on my mind to talk to you guys about today. Something that I watched. I watched it actually on Facebook. It's about the case of Mitchelle Blair. And some of you may have heard of Mitchelle Blair. She was a parent of 4 children. This is back in 2013, around 2012, 2013. And she brutally murdered 2 of her children and disposed their bodies in the freezer, her deep freezer. Yeah. And you say, well, how can a person do that? How can a person be that evil, do something that heinous? Especially to their own blood and their own kids that are innocent in nature, kids that are too young to defend themselves. They're kids. The 2 children that were murdered were her 2 middle children. Stoney was the age of 13, and Stephen, I believe, was around 9 years old. She had 4 children, 2 of which survived her evilness. The youngest of which I believe she favored, and the eldest child she favored. So she had 2 girls and 2 boys. So there's a boy that's still in the land of the living, and there's a girl that's still living. But this really set on my spirit, you guys, because for those of us who have children, I ended up watching the whole interview. She had like an interview some years back. Where she was questioned. She was in the interviewing room and she was questioned about why she did it and how she did it and the descriptiveness and the details. All I could say was that, it just screamed out that she was lying to me. I didn't believe nothing she was saying. I believe it was rehearsed. I believe that these children was failed by the system because they had been taken away from her before, maybe all 4 of them at one period and one point in time. So where was DCFS when it came to checking up on these children? Where were the teachers when it came to her pulling them out of school without question? Some people you can look at and say, something not right here. Maybe I need to send somebody over to the house. Her excuse for pulling all her kids out of school was that she was going to move away and live with her brother or her aunt, which was not at all true. And I don't know if this was a pre-planned thing from the moment she took them out of school and she said to herself, hey, self, I can't handle it no more. It's better to have 2 than 4, or I'm tired of looking at these kids. And I'm going to get rid of 2 of them and just keep the 2 that favor me the most, or the 2 that I favor the most, and kill the other 2. But the reasons that she murdered her children, and her reasonings was still not a reason at all, if you ask me. She claimed that the 2 middle children were harassing and molesting the youngest son. She claimed that they were taking his food. She claimed that they were doing things sexually to him. And I believe that she coerced and beat them out of a confession. You see on some movies, and even some of you may have experienced it in real life, where people have been in police custody and questioned for hours and hours and hours until they're forced or coerced to say something that is maybe completely not true. They're starved out, or they made to be bullied into saying something that's not true just to be let go. And so these are babies we're talking about, 13 and 9 years old, that were murdered by their own mother. Just evil-hearted person. And we have people like this amongst us. We think of the Ted Bundys, and we think of the John Wayne Gacy's, and but there's so many people with murdering spirits that have no remorse. And so when she was questioned about it, she came up with a series of events. And so the lady that was questioning her said, well, if you a stay-at-home mom, how could this happen under your nose? You don't have a job, basically. How could this happen under your nose and you not know nothing about it? You not know anything about it. Just all of a sudden, out of the blue, one day, your son, you claim your youngest child, comes to you and says, Mom, I'm being touched, or this person is doing that to me. It just didn't add up. The story was BS from the beginning. And I'm going to tell you why I feel like it was BS. It's something to corroborate what I'm saying. Some of this is alleged. I don't know how true this is, but just going off of the interview that I saw with Mitchelle, Mitchelle, Blair, Blaire. That's the spelling of her name. You guys can look her up, look up some of the videos, and actually see it for yourself. But I'm not believing. I didn't believe what she said when she first went into interviewing. It's just something about my spirit just didn't set right with her. And she wanted to convince the interviewer that she was telling the truth somehow. She wanted to make her believe, and started to get a little frustrated because she wasn't believing what she was saying, or she felt as though at one point in time she wasn't believing what she was saying. She kept saying, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, it was so many holes in the story. And so the way that they found these children was because she was getting evicted, and the people who came in to move her things out of the apartment or out of the house ended up seeing a half-open freezer where they discovered the bodies of Stephen and Stoney, her children. And I don't know how she conjured up this story that the child was getting molested. I believe that she herself did experience some trauma. She then bestowed that trauma on her children and definitely blamed her two middle children that she cared less for, because the lady asked her in the interview, is there children that you favor? She said, I love them all the same. Well, two of them are alive and two of them are dead, so that couldn't be possible. The way she described her brutality towards these children, she said, as far as the oldest daughter, she started to feed her less and less. She began to punch her and beat her up. This happened days in and days out, where she beat the girl with her hands. She beat her with what she first said was a wooden wrapped up blue pipe. Well, we know that pipes are normally metal, and she would beat her in the head with that and lump her up. She said she had lumps all over her head, and she said that she would not apologize for what she did. She wanted a confession. So the girl confessed to doing it, probably just out of being beaten and thinking that her mother would finally stop, even though it was never true. And then she said she told her middle daughter, which was Stoney, she said, well, if you did it, how could you do this to your brother? And she said the girl would never apologize. She just said, I'm sorry for what happened. But she said, but you're not sorry for what you did to him specifically. So it was a bunch of BS. I don't believe those children ever did that. If they did something, it was probably minor infractions and things that should have not occurred on her watch as a parent if she's in the house 24/7. What are you doing in the house 24/7 besides watching your kids and taking care of your household and making sure everything is cooked, clean, and well prepared for them to go out into the world? As far as the little boy, Stephen, she beat him quite the same way. It wasn't a starve out. She just basically with her hands punched him to death. And until she said she didn't know what was going on internally in his body, because she had beat him so bad with her hands. I believe he passed away the next day after being beaten. I don't know if it was broken ribs or anything like that, but it was something that she did to fracture this little boy and cause him to suffer internally. The daughter she had so much hate for, she beat with a metal pipe. Can you imagine someone, I don't even want you guys to imagine this, but this hit my heart. Someone beating their child with a metal pipe in the head. And I have to be descriptive. I want you to know how people can be so immensely engulfed with evilness and hatred, even for their own family. Can you imagine that? So if you don't take anything else away from this, take away, staying woke, staying vigilant,